Prairie Mosaic is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008, the North Dakota Council on the Arts, and by the members of Prairie Public.
Welcome to Prairie Mosaic, a patchwork of stories about the arts, culture, and history in our region.
Hi, I'm Barb Gravel.
And I'm Matt O'Lean. On this edition of Prairie Mosaic, we'll meet an award-winning filmmaker, celebrate a birthday, and hear from a premium classical guitarist. Documentary filmmaker Melody Gilbert has a unique talent for profiling subjects who may not fit into societal norms. She hopes her films spark discussion and maybe even an understanding of those she profiles.
My name is Walter Mondale.
Does this mean anything?
I'm looking for the thing around the thing because the thing is interesting, right? Like, that is interesting, but it's the thing around that thing that's really interesting. I actually am not like most people where I was a movie fanatic. I was a story fanatic, and I was a journalist, a working journalist for 15 years.
Melody Gilbert, Newsline 9, Neillsville.
I never went to film school. A lot of people don't know that about me. I teach in journalism and film programs, but I never went to journalism school or film school. And I learned by doing. I was on a shoot, and as soon as the camera went off, and as soon as the big cameraman left and the sound person went away, the person started telling me things that they wouldn't tell me when the camera was on. And I thought, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to spend more time with people. I want to spend more time, get to know them better, learn the stories more.
Going to the chapel and whip.
My very first independent film was called Married at the Mall. And I decided I needed to do something that was close because I was living in St. Paul. I'm like, oh, the mall is 10 minutes away. And I decided I was going to spend a year doing something instead of a day.
Every kind of diversity you can possibly imagine.
I spent a year filming weddings there and making a lot of mistakes. So I did a lot of, the camera work myself, but I worked mostly with a wireless microphone, and I had a ton of audio problems. I had a ton of, video problems from the camera, and I just learned by making a lot of mistakes. I really didn't understand the business side of making films. I just immersed myself in that world, and I started going to a lot of film markets and film festivals and meeting all the film people.
I'm really honored to receive this award.
It was at that point that I started realizing, oh, there's a whole business of independent film.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Melody, and A Life Without Pain took about a year to make.
The most successful film I ever had that made me think I could actually be in the business and stay in the business for a while was A Life Without Pain.
People always think of pain, pain, pain. Oh, if I could get rid of the pain. I'm thinking, you do not even know how lucky you are that you can feel it.
I just want to know why people do the things they do. So when I heard about people who want to be an amputee, and I'm going to say that again because it's like they want to be an amputee, like really? I kind of just needed to go find out.
About the only way I would get through a day is looking at that longingly for some time. That's about the only way I get through a day. I'm a person that has a right to exist that way.
One of the most beautiful things that happens when you make a film is sharing part of you with your audience.
She is probably one of the most insightful, empathetic people I have ever met. And she closely observes human behavior, and she does it in a way that doesn't disturb you. She does it in a way that is so authentic.
I just am really interested in what drives people, and I want to know what it is. Even if I don't find out the answer, I want to understand it a little better.
It doesn't get any prettier than this.
There were some moments filming during Silicone Soul that were a little uncomfortable.
I can live without somebody to love me, but I cannot live without somebody to love, somebody to spoil and take care of and be good to. So I have Jackie for that.
I really needed to find ways to balance that film from the men who have female companions with other things that made it so it was humanizing for anybody to see.
I mean, just, it's so lifelike, and to them, it is real.
You have to kind of just find ways to focus on the question you're trying to answer, and that's what I do when I go out to film.
She is able to bring out, just with a single question, to bring out a response that is so evocative and revealing.
How many people can you say in your life that you have a daily relationship, that you touch, feel, create together every single day for 23 years?
And I still mostly work alone. I still enjoy working alone. It's just me, the camera, and a wireless microphone. Why do I like doing that? It's because it creates intimacy with people, and they trust me. The really good stuff that I get in my films, I feel like comes from those rare moments when you're just with someone.
It's not about Republicans or Democrats, it's about human nature.
Mr. Mondale is so humble, and he did not want a film made about him.
And we did it.
His assistant and I kind of worked in tandem, and she would tell me, well, he's going to be at this event tonight or that event tonight. And I just started showing up again with my camera, just me and my camera, no crew, no anything. I started following him around, and you know, at one point he was like, oh, well, I guess you're making a movie about me.
To try to argue about how I would like to see America go.
I guess what I would want people to think about when they think of a Melody Gilbert film is that when you're done watching it, that it creates conversations. It doesn't necessarily give you answers. It takes you on a journey, and it will make you want to talk after you watch it to someone else. Hey, I just saw this. I can't believe it. It's something I never knew about before. Let's talk about it.
In this Artifact Spotlight, Mark Peel of the Historical and Cultural Society of Clay County in Moorhead, Minnesota, informs us of the history surrounding two of the bridges that connected Fargo and Moorhead.
Hi, I'm Mark Peel. I'm the archivist for the Historical and Cultural Society of Clay County. And we're here in the Yumcomb Center in Moorhead, Minnesota, and this is my Artifact Spotlight. Well, today I want to talk about bridges here in Fargo, Moorhead. It always takes about 10 or 15 years to get a bridge built between Fargo and Moorhead. It always has. The same was true back in the old days. You've got two cities, two states. The federal government is involved, and people argue about who's going to build them, who's going to pay for them and maintain them. Same true in the 19th century. In 1872, the first bridge across the river, the railroad bridge, the Northern Pacific Railway, was built. And for about 10 years after that, the two cities, Fargo and Moorhead, argued about whether to build a wagon bridge on the north side of the downtowns or one on the south side of the downtowns. And finally, in 1883, they compromised. Instead of building one decent bridge, they built two lousy bridges. Tried to save money that way and didn't pay off. And I've got some artifacts out here that were remnants from the South Bridge. The South Bridge is where the Main Avenue Bridge is today between Fargo and Moorhead. The second bridge was called the North Bridge, and that ran from what's now NP Avenue in Fargo to the northeast up to where American Crystal Sugar has their downtown headquarters, just south of the Yumcomb Center where we are. And by the turn of the century, both of these bridges were really falling apart and had to get rebuilt. They weren't built for modern traffic. Eventually, they became so dangerous, actually, to cross that even pedestrians were blocked from crossing the bridges. The Main Avenue Bridge, where these came from, the South Bridge, was torn down in 1936. A fellow named A.W. Bowman, who was actually the president of our Historical Society back in those days, managed to get a hold of the parts from that Main Avenue Bridge and donated them to our museum in 1936. And the first artifact is this bridge plaque right here, and it says Milwaukee Bridge and Iron Works. That was the company that was in charge of building the South Bridge, the Main Avenue Bridge, and a date on it is 1883. There were two of these plaques, one on either end of the bridge, high up above the bridge. And in 1883, steamboats were still operating out of Fargo Moorhead. The steamboats had pretty tall smokestacks, and the Army Corps of Engineers required that all of the bridges be able to turn out of the way in order to allow these steamboats to pass. 1883 was a big bridge building year. Both the North and the South Bridge were built. And both railroad bridges, the Northern Pacific and the Great Northern Railway bridges, were rebuilt in those years, 1883 and 1884. So all of them had to turn to allow a steamboat to pass. These improvements cost each of them $10,000 in 1883 dollars, and that's a lot of money today. And the way that they operated, each of the bridges was built on a round central pier. And the main structure of the bridge actually literally balanced on top of that round concrete structure. And at the very top of that structure was basically a Lazy Susan, a turntable. And there was mechanism for turning that bridge. When a steamboat wanted to cross the path of the bridge, in order to get the bridge out of the way, a local policeman or a bridge tender would come out with a key, and we have one here. This one is from the Main Avenue Bridge right here. It has a socket on the far end over here. This would have a wooden bar going across the top of it, so it was kind of T-shaped. And a bridge tender or local policeman would insert this key, that bottom end of that key, down through a hole in the deck and engage this gear right here. This pinion gear right here would engage with a rack gear that ran around the very top of the bridge footing, and the bridge tender would turn this key, and that would in turn turn this pinion gear, and it would run around the rack gear, and very slowly that bridge would turn out of its way to allow the steamboat to pass. And when they were done, they would turn it back, of course, so wagons could continue going across the bridge. When they were first built and first installed, the Moorhead Daily News reported that they were so well balanced that a small child would have no trouble turning the bridge. But I've never seen a photograph of a Fargo-Moorhead Bridge turned to allow a steamboat to pass. They were only used for just a few years. They were installed in 1883, 1884. By the spring of 1888, railroads had put the steamboats out of business. It was so much faster and so much easier to move materials and people by rail than it was by the steamboats. The steamboats couldn't compete. In the spring of 1888, they all moved to Grand Forks, and they never really came back to Fargo-Moorhead. So these things were probably only used a few dozen times. And these artifacts are just a couple of the items, thousands and thousands of artifacts that we have here at the Historical and Cultural Society of Clay County, in some cases in our storage areas, some cases out on display. And come on down, check them out. We'd love to have you visit our museum.
Detroit Lakes, Minnesota is a popular summer destination for many around the state, but its history is just as interesting. In 2021, the city celebrated its 150th anniversary with events and activities for all ages, including an art project that can be seen all around town.
Detroit Lakes is really a destination place. We get tourism here. It's a great place to come and visit. People want to live here.
The original name of Detroit Lakes, Big and Little Detroit Lakes, is Gayajawawangog, and that's the Ojibwe word, and it means a crossing in a sandy place. The town was founded in 1871, but years and years and decades and decades and decades before that, where the city sits now is at an access point of 4 ox cart trails. They went from Minneapolis to Winnipeg and Pembina, North Dakota to Brainerd, and they all kind of met right here at this lake. So we were kind of bound to be a trading area to begin with. The first settler who came and built where Detroit Lake City is was Colonel George Johnston. He was a Civil War soldier. He came here and he built a flour mill on the river. He needed employees, so people started moving, and that was really kind of the catalyst of why the town was built right here. The father of tourism is John K. West, and he was really responsible for coming up with the sort of Detroit Lakes propaganda to get people to come here as tourists, not just to come here to live and work.
We have great tourism, but we also have a lot of good industry here. We have some manufacturing facilities. We've got a pretty vibrant retail community here in Detroit Lakes.
The water here has been so many things. It's been industry. The logging companies needed to use the water to transport the logs. The tourism started almost immediately with the town to try to get people to come here. And they're showcasing this. You can't imagine how clean and pure this water is. You can scoop out of the lake and drink the water out of the lake. It's so pure. I worked here for 5 years. I had a pretty good grasp of what made Detroit Lakes Detroit Lakes. We came up with a list of what we thought were the most important bullet points that I needed to cover. And then as I got into it, it got more and more, and it grew into this huge 33 panels that's just history.
150 sales is reflective of the 150 years that Detroit Lakes has been and of the 150 years to come. It's an amazing amount of work, amazing amount of beauty that just makes our community shine. Our logo is Sails Up, our pride is just the Lakers. So the sailboat was what we kind of settled on, and so I designed the main shape and the look of it, and then we met with the local company. They agreed right off the bat to do the whole thing to help sponsor the fabrication. So we knew we would have these sailboats. We planned to do 75 large that were 4 feet and 75 tabletops because some places don't have public space to put a large sailboat sculpture. What's amazing is every artist got the same three-dimensional canvas. It was a white sailboat sculpture. And to see where their imagination took it. We have it ranging from a monarch butterfly to wildlife to seasonal to landscape to mosaics, photography. You know, we have artists that have done multiple pieces, and we've had artists as young as 10 on up to 82. It's amazing to see what the imagination and creativity is, and then to have the sponsors support that by picking these different artists. People were just amazed. They were just blown away by the diversity of what the artwork, the colors, what these things would be. And now people driving around town, the comments are they're just tickled to see these things when they walk into a business or they go to a park or they drive around town, they see these sculptures everywhere. They're fun splashes of creativity and color. The whole point of this is to get people to come to Detroit Lakes to see the retails, the different locations, different businesses, and our parks within our community, the amenities that Detroit Lakes has.
It's the people that make it special here. It's a beautiful place to come and visit, and people want to live and work here.
It's the sense of community. As I was going through the research, our whole team here was involved in the research for this. And we were finding letters that people were writing to each other and writing to their friends back east and writing to their legislatures and saying, this place here needs to have this, or it needs to have this new amenity, or we should build a pavilion. We've seen the community spirit all the way from the beginning, and it just flows all the way through. It's not a surprise that the sense of community in Detroit Lakes is the way it is.
And that's really the heart of soul, I think, of what Detroit Lakes is we really support everybody to make sure our community shines bright.
Thomas Anderson is a classical guitarist and a professor of guitar studies at the University of North Dakota. His passion is teaching technique to students and sharing his love for different styles of music.
If you know of an artist, topic, or organization in our region that you think might make for an interesting segment, please contact us at prairiemosaic@prairiepublic.org.
You can watch this and other episodes of Prairie Mosaic on Prairie Public's YouTube channel and follow Prairie Public on social media as well. I'm Barb Gravel.
And I'm Matt O'Lean. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Prairie Mosaic.
Prairie Mosaic is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008, the North Dakota Council on the Arts, and by the members of Prairie Public.